Two insane minds. One strategy for getting away. And a possible body count that has already been recorded. What if the reunion everyone's been dreading isn't just some side story? What if it's a countdown, in fact? Okay, before we get into this, please do me a favor if stories like this make you think long after the episode is over. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and send this to another fan who needs to hear it. Sincerely, by the time we are finished here, you will want to discuss this with someone. I'm Jenny, and this is the place where we go beyond just what happened on screen. And we actually dig into the psychology, the hidden feelings, the stuff simmering under the surface of your favorite storylines. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, because today we're talking about Matt Clark and Patty Williams. This is the current situation. Matt Clark is missing. Just passed. And Phyllis is losing her mind over it, which, let's be honest, her gut is usually right about these things. In the meantime, everything suggests that Victor Newman is somehow involved in this. And if the rumors are true, Matt might be locked away in a maximum security psychiatric facility. Patty Williams is being held by the same person. Let that sink in for a second. Victor never acts without a justification. That does not imply that he is protecting Matt if he is the one secretly locking him up. That's containment. That man treated people like pieces on a chessboard his entire life. And you already know nothing Victor touches stays contained for long. Now think about what this actually means for Matt. This is a guy who spent this entire time trying to prove he's not a monster, trying to convince Phyllis, and honestly, trying to convince himself that his dark side is behind, and now, suddenly, he's thrown into a building full of triggers, full of reminders of exactly who he's been running from. That's not just bad luck. That's genuinely devastating for someone in his position. And here's the thing, Patty isn't just some random inmate. She's chaos, with a history. A woman whose whole life has been built on obsession, breakdowns, and leaving emotional wreckage behind her wherever she goes. So the second you put Matt anywhere near Patty, you're not looking at two separate storylines anymore. You're looking at a chemical reaction just waiting to happen. So let's break this down because there's a lot going on underneath the surface here. Why bring these two together right now, of all times? In soaps, timing is never accidental, right? Jack and Diane are about to leave for a romantic getaway. A little peace. A reward after everything they've been through to find their way back to each other. And wouldn't you know it, Patty resurfaces at the exact same moment. That's not a coincidence. That's the writers lighting a fuse and slowly backing away. And look, Jack and Diane deserve this happiness. They've earned it. But here's the thing about soaps, peace never lasts. The happier a couple looks, the more you should be worried because you know something's coming for it. My stomach just sinks whenever Patty's name is mentioned in the same sentence as their trip. Because we all know what she's capable of when she feels forgotten or wronged or invisible. Honestly, I think this is some of the smartest writing Y&R has done in a while. Using Jack and Diane's happiness like bait, dangling it right in front of Patty like a lit match near dry leaves. That's genuinely unsettling. I wouldn't bet on their little getaway ending the way they're hoping. And think about Patty's mindset here. This woman's entire identity was consumed by obsession. Remember, she once believed she literally was someone else. So when someone like that gets released back into the world, they don't come back calm and healed. They come back angrier, more resentful. Confinement doesn't fix people like Patty. It just builds the pressure. Now let's talk about Matt for a second because his side of this matters just as much. Why? Because this whole time he's been trying to outrun his own past, his own history of violence and manipulation. And now he's stuck in a facility surrounded by unstable people. That's not just physically dangerous for him. That's a direct hit to the fragile control he's built for himself. Just imagine the humiliation of it. Matt has made a sincere effort to become someone that Phyllis could trust, someone who could actually build a life that is stable. And now all of that gets stripped away, and he's thrown right back into the exact setting that screams, see? This is who you always were. That kind of forced backslide can break someone faster than almost anything else. Here's my theory though, and I want you to really sit with this one. I don't think the writers are putting Matt in there just to torture him for no reason. I think they're building a mirror. Patty is what happens when the darkness completely wins. Matt is someone still fighting it tooth and nail. Put them in the same space, and suddenly the show gets to ask a brutal question. Is it true that being close to actual chaos draws you back into it? Or does it actually make it clearer who you don't want to become? And if you ask me, I don't think Matt walks away from this clean. Not because I think he's secretly a villain. I actually think his growth has been real. But soaps almost never let real growth go unpunished. Genoa City has this nasty habit of testing good intentions in the worst possible way. This is basic psychology, honestly. Your environment shapes your behavior way more than people want to admit. Put someone who's been recovering right back into the exact conditions that made them who they used to be, and you're not testing their willpower anymore. You're testing their survival. It's possible that Matt will enter the room clinging to the version of himself that Phyllis believes in. But Patty? She might walk him right out of that, convinced there's nothing left in him worth saving. But here's where it gets really messy, because staying locked up together was never going to be the end of this. Patty's first move won't be about survival if she escapes, and let's face it, all indications point to that possibility. It will be about getting your revenge. About chaos. About reclaiming some version of a life she feels was stolen from her. That's who she's always been. She doesn't disappear quietly. She comes back loud, at the worst possible time, for the people who least expect it. So, who's the most exposed the second she's out? Jack and Diane. A couple who's mid-vacation, finally letting their guard down, finally breathing for what feels like the first time in forever. And there's something almost cruel about that, right? Providing them with peace before removing it. But that's the soap formula. You will never be able to keep happiness. A target is it. Here's an angle I don't think enough people are talking about, though. What if Patty isn't just after Jack and Diane out of random chaos? What if it's enviousness? A woman who was locked up for years and watched as everyone else's relationships improved and developed while her own state remained traumatized. She might be enraged by Jack's happy ending, not just by the music. It might feel like an injustice she's owed the right to fix. And honestly, if that's the direction they take it, I think that's a way stronger story than just some random act of violence. Give Patty an actual motive rooted in that kind of emotional unfairness, and suddenly she's not just the crazy ex anymore. She's this tragic mirror of everything Diane almost became before she found her own redemption. That's compelling. That's not just shock value for the sake of it. Comparative deprivation is the psychological term for this. It's when someone measures their own suffering against someone else's happiness and takes it personally, like it was done to them on purpose. Patty doesn't need Jack or Diane to have actually wronged her. She only needs to believe that the universe owes her something. And honestly, that's often more dangerous than a grudge that actually makes sense, because you can't reason someone out of that. Let's now talk about what would happen if Matt ran off with her. Because that changes everything. If Matt escapes in the chaos Patty causes, even if it's not intentional, even if it's just him getting swept up in it, this stops being a psychiatric drama and turns into a full-blown fugitive story. And once Matt's out there without the structure that's been holding him together, Phyllis, his job, his routine, those old instincts have room to creep back in. Picture Phyllis in this moment. She's already spiraling, already convinced something's terribly wrong. Now imagine her finding out the man she loves isn't just missing, he's a fugitive. Possibly running right alongside one of the most unstable people this show has ever put on that's not just heartbreak. That's her worst nightmare playing out in real time. Here's a thought that keeps nagging at me though. Maybe this story isn't really about will Matt turn evil again. Maybe it's asking something deeper. Can love actually hold someone together when the whole world seems to be pulling them back toward their worst self? That's a much richer question than a simple villain relapse, don't you think? Honestly, I kind of want the show to let this get messy. Too many redemption arcs get protected. The character flirts with the darkness, but the story always yanked them back before there's any real consequence. I think Matt's arc only means something if there's real risk of him losing everything he's built. Otherwise, what was the point of any of his growth in the first place? And if Matt and Patty end up on the run together, even briefly, that's where things get really dangerous. Two people who understand darkens.